All right, welcome everyone. It's Friday night, so I really congratulate everyone who made it to the last event of Post University. It's been a long day, and all of us are looking forward to have some rest. But until then, we will have this wonderful discussion with these wonderful guests. We have Off University, which is a Turkish-German initiative, as far as I understand, and Anti University, who are from Moscow in Russia. I will not present the organizations myself. I will not spend too much time on that because I want to give them a chance to talk about their own initiatives because they obviously know them better. And I will only say a few words about the format. We were thinking of breaking this, going away from this presentation format when everyone is listening to someone talking for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We wanted to cheer this up a little bit, and so Erdost and I, who are moderating this session, will start this with just asking questions. So we'll turn it into an interview format. I'll take one, and then Erdost take one, and then I take one, or the other way around. Then we will offer anti-university and post-university anti-university and off-university to ask questions to each other. And after that, we will open the floor for a Q&A from the audience. So Erdost, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anatoly, and thank you, Anti-University and Off University, Aysude and Jan, representing these brilliant institutions, initiatives, and we're really happy to have you here. And in case you have actually attended the other panels and speeches, like your names came a lot, because one theme actually that was coming a lot is that what can we do? Right, like how can we resist? And we see your initiatives as a good example, showing that what we can do. So the first question then we're gonna pose you is that can you talk about the origin of your initiatives a bit, and what were the challenges that you were trying to address when you were launching your initiatives? I don't know who wants to go first, but the floor is yours. Aysude, you are muted. We cannot hear you.
Yes, I tend to do that. Hi, I'm Aysude. I'll go first, I guess. I'm from Off University, and yes, we are, as you said, a German-Turkish initiative that is actually in Germany, in Berlin, located there, founded there. Our origins are, I guess, like superhero origins. I mean, it's not unhappy. It's unhappy. It's not happy. We were forced to do this. So what happened was in 2016, Turkish government engaged in acts that a group of academics publicly, through a statement, publicly condemned and asked the Turkish government to stop. Asked the Turkish government to stop attacking, assaulting Kurdish cities and hurting civilians. And this petition was punished by the government very soon after the petition was signed by 1,126, I believe, academics from all over Turkey, from all sorts of disciplines. The president himself started accusing us of terrorism. I was one of the petitioners, of being terrorists, of being attacking the government, of allying with foreign forces, all sorts of accusations that we were traitors basically to the country. And this was followed with a period of persecution. A lot of our colleagues were dismissed from their jobs at public universities that were controlled by the government institutions, of course. And they also lost their passports. And this was done without any kind of inquiry, any kind of legal process. They were just dismissed from their jobs by midnight decisions that were just published online. And the ones in public universities lost their passports as well. The ones working in private universities, they didn't need to be dismissed from academia altogether. They were just fired from their jobs because it's easier to fire. You don't have any kind of legal impediment to firing someone from a private university. So in a very short time, a lot of academics were unemployed, and they were not allowed to work at all in academia or even in education sector. They were not allowed to leave Turkey. It was a very difficult time where people were facing all kinds of threats at the same time, the possibility of going to prison because each petitioner was individually in a very odd way of doing things. We were all individually sued for signing the exact same petition. And this went to the court, and academics started getting sentences between minimum of 15 months to the maximum of 36 months. 4 of our colleagues they were actually arrested and sent to prison a couple of months after in an incident, in a proclamation that was related to the petition. So in this climate, and this is 2016, 6-7 months after this incident, after the petition, there was a coup attempt in Turkey, and the state went the country went into a state of emergency, a legal state of emergency. So it was very easy to persecute everyone, to attack everyone, and we were left without legal defense, basically. What happened was that a lot of scholars that could leave Turkey did leave Turkey to go to places where they thought they could find some kind of scholarship, jobs, and where they could actually continue to be academics, continue to find employment, and free from political persecution and express their opinions freely. So this was the climate that Off University was established in. Berlin was one of the main, maybe not the one of the main, it was the main destination for these scholars from Turkey. And when we came here, we started coming together and talking about what we could do. And it was a very dark period. And we were more concerned about our colleagues back in Turkey who couldn't leave Turkey, who some of them were penniless. They couldn't pay their rent. They couldn't afford anything. And they couldn't teach, even if they had money to survive. They couldn't teach, they couldn't do research. They were cut off from the university, from their students. So we thought, how can we be in solidarity with our colleagues? I mean, helping is something else, and it's not something we wanted to do because you don't want to be an object of help. We wanted to do solidarity, we wanted to do something equal. And we just opened up space so that they could teach and conduct research through a platform that we established and earn money and reach students, and the students could reach them because what we saw was that initially our focus was academics at risk and reaching them and allowing them to teach and conduct research. But over time, in the 3 years since we established Off University, we realized that we also had to protect knowledge at risk because governments target, autocratic governments, authoritarian governments target specific forms of knowledge that are critical of authoritarianism, like peace studies, gender studies. I mentioned these in particular because these are the 2 areas we focus, but especially social sciences and humanities are very much targeted, particularly those areas that are in critical areas. So those things were also being pushed away from Turkish universities. Those topics were being pushed out of Turkish universities with the scholars that were studying them. This is where we're at now. And I'm just going to very shortly talk to you about our model. We open a call. It's an open call to everyone, and anyone, any scholar can apply to be a lecturer at Off University. And we receive a lot of applications. We go through them and we look at the applications. We look at the courses that the lecturers want to offer. We look at their merits. We look at what the students demand. And we try to select the lectures and the courses that are most in line with our objectives. And our objectives are fighting authoritarianism and helping establish peace everywhere. And doing this in a non-hierarchical and open way, and also opening academic structures to everyone. So we select courses and instructors. After the selection process, the lecturers start the semester. We have to find partners, and most of our partner universities are in Germany. We find partners one by one. For each course, we find a partner university, and that course is offered through that university. And after the course is done, if a student completes the course and does all the coursework and receives a grade, that student can get ECTS credits for that course from that university. Let's say it's at Freie University or Humboldt University, or they receive the ECTS credit from that university. Now, you don't have to be a university student. You don't have to have any kind of degree to be a student at Off University. You don't have to pay anything, although we do pay our lecturers enough to actually live on in Turkey, at least. So our model is we pay our lecturers about at least at the rate that Europe does, and we do not ask for any money from our students. And it's open to all the students around the world. Most of our courses are in English because of this reason. We want to be able to reach as many students as possible. But recently, we were able to reach out to more lecturers around the world and include them as include them at Off University. So, you know, from Asia, for example. So we don't want to be a Turkish-German initiative anymore. We want to expand our focus as much as we can. And this is where we're at right now. And we've reached over like 1,500 students so far. We've offered many courses over the 3 years, and we continue to do so. Yeah.
Thank you, Aysuda. Ella or Jan, would you be so kind as to tell us very, very briefly just about a few challenges that you sort of were trying to face when you were starting your initiative?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I mean, just listening to what Ayuda said, I thought like we are actually hipster university in comparison, and I think that's also okay. So the origin is a reflection by several people about what is happening in the academia, in the Russian academia very specifically, and what is the main problems we are facing as a scholar, a PhD student, as student. And this was, I think, important to say that this reflection was done in a group which is very different. Me being a scholar educated in history of science in the West, now being for 3 years in Russia now. Ella, who is working at working in gender studies and a feminist activist. Armen Aramian and Masha Menshikova, who are from a journal called Doxa, which is an activist journal writing about about the problems of contemporary academia. So we like at the very origin of the anti-university is a space in which several people could discuss what the problems are. And we also, of the university, and we also involved people who are not at the university, like artists, and also activists. So it was like a very, very productive environment in which we talked about topics, for example, about which the whole today's event was, like the colonial theory, problem of managerialism in academia, and so on and so on. And then we stopped theorizing and started practicing it. So there is not really an ideological profile behind that university. What simply happened is at some point of time we decided, well, let's start doing it and let's see what will be happening. And what Anti-University developed to be is it's either a space or an artistic intervention. I'm hesitating to choose between two of them. Basically, we established a space to which people from in which people can offer courses. And courses, it's because in Moscow there is a lot of events, really a lot, but what students don't have and also non-students don't have is a possibility of a deeper interaction over some weeks, either concentrating on small topics or concentrating on bigger topics. But for example, with inclusion of people who are outside of the university. So that was very important for us, that we want to make a space which is as inclusive as it's possible, with all the reservation that, we also have our limits of making spaces. And we also from the very beginning, we invited everyone to join. We of course look at what people are interested in, and do something like a checking. But happily, and being named Anti-University scares a lot of people off, because it brings us immediately into, let's say, left radical spectrum, although maybe we are there, or maybe we are not sure by ourselves. But what we did is to organize, at the height, we are alive for a year. We survived this year, we are very happy about it, and we are constantly changing. So I think in December last year, there were weeks during which we had 13 seminars at the same time, and during the week, ranging from urban history, post-colonial studies, urban planning, post-colonial studies, art and activism, or public activism, investigative journalism. So there is a very broad range of topics we are covering, and we are also open to everything from studium of Byzantine studies to juridical studies. Basically, as soon as people who come to us and with whom we want to work are exactly those who say that there is something we want to do at the academia, but it's not possible for many reasons. Some of them political, some of them just simply because academia/university is an institution, and it is exclusive as every institution is. So we are trying to make the space like a bit something different. And I think one of the challenges, the two challenges I would just briefly mention in 30 seconds. The first one is that, being a space, we also need spaces. And Moscow has only a limited number of spaces in which you can do events like this. And the number is getting smaller. We always manage to find something, but the situation changes every year. The second thing is that during a year a pandemic started, which started by limiting the places and making us move online. And online is, I would call it like a big experiment. We don't really know whether it's positive or negative, because it's positive because we don't really need space anymore. Negative because we don't need space, we don't have the kind of interaction that we actually wanted. So we are working on it and we're adapting to new reality we are living in. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Since we we definitely, and also our guests, I hope, would be interested to know not only about your initiatives, but also about your respective intellectual, cultural, national contexts. And since we've discussed already during some of the sessions that universities are lying to us when they're telling that they are the only places for knowledge production, it is evident by now to everyone that such places they proliferate like mushrooms after the rain. And so what I wanted to ask you is, could you perhaps pinpoint 2 or 3 your favorite intellectual educational initiatives that are truly exciting and that are taking place in your respective cultural, intellectual, national contexts, besides yours?
We just like ours. Actually, just about the time that we started off university in Germany, our colleagues in Turkey started similar initiatives to anti-university in Turkey. And one of them is called Together, Bir Arada in Turkish. And the other is, it's a initiative that brings together all sorts of local initiatives from different parts of Turkey. And then there's Solidarity Academies. And these are local academies, again, set up mostly by dismissed academics, whose students were like, we want to be with you and we want to hear your lectures and we want to get together, and we don't have to limit academia to the university. So they started meeting sometimes in parks, sometimes in halls and coffee shops. Sometimes they could, rent places. And they started holding public lectures and discussions. So I think on all sorts of topics, it's very similar to anti-university. And there was a lot of demand and from both students and non-students. And a third example I want to very shortly mention is Chiron. It's not from Turkey. They're an international organization, but they're similar to us in the sense that they're trying to reach students from all over the world through online initiatives. Their target is reaching refugee students and giving them an education, is particularly in refugee camps. So those 3 initiatives I appreciate a lot, and we are always in touch.
Aisuda, thank you. If you would be so kind to maybe just mention these initiatives in the chat so that everyone could actually find them afterwards.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to say hello. I'm Ella. I also one of the founders of the Anti-University, and in our case, actually in Moscow and in different other Russian cities, there are plenty of initiatives like this because of several reasons, and most of them are connected with the state pressure, which is increasing in Russia. And because of the state pressure, many of the discussions, many of ideas could not be discussed in universities and in different, for example, state cultural spaces, governmental cultural spaces. So people just have to organize their own small institutions. And I mean, for example, our Anti-University, of course, is not the first academic space like this. We have 7 seminars. Now it's called Laboratory of Unused Things, I guess, Laboraтория ненужных вещей. And this also was a space where different courses were held on different academic disciplines by the university teachers, because in Anti-University, most of the people, they are actually from academia, and they just don't have space for the ideas, for the discussions they need inside of the academia. And some of them were also fired this summer because of political reasons. But I mean, but yeah, so there are places like this, and some of the fired university teachers who were fired this summer, they also created Svobodny Universitet, Free University of Moscow. It's just started working, and it's also about courses, but only in online format. We do both offline and online formats, and they try to do only online, also because it's much more safer. It's much more safer and easier in Russia to do things in online format, because the government can't, come to your place and start, the police can come to your place, one place where everybody gets together and stop your, event. So yeah, but there are so many initiatives like this, and artistic initiatives too, like the contemporary art initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you, Ella and Isuda. We definitely will check these institutions out, and I hope other people also will. And also Ella's comment about the online space being safer reminded me of, like, in some of the discussions, a lot of people were actually complaining about this online formats, and that we don't have, this like personal connection, and how important it is actually for education. But this also shows that some of these comments actually come from a point of privilege. But so we talked about the challenges you were trying to address when you were launching your initiatives. And now maybe you can talk about some of the toughest challenges you're facing today in your work. Jan already mentioned some, but now you can elaborate. And also, if there's any, what are the positive experiences in dealing with these challenges? So I'm sure that we can all learn from your experiences.
So our biggest challenge is funding. It was in the beginning, and it remains because we need to pay, and our platform costs a lot of money, because one of our biggest concerns was to make the platform absolutely safe. Security is our utmost concern. We don't want any kind of government intervention, hacking, and our problem is the government. So we don't want the government to come and check on who's attending courses, what they're saying there. We don't want the platform to be hacked, to be brought down by any kind of cyber attack. So this costs a lot of money. We also wanted the platform to be, of course, user-friendly. That also costs a lot of money. And paying, and we need a staff to keep all the operations going, as well as the lectures. So we constantly write projects the way it is done in Europe, and apply to a lot of funding institutions. And because we're so focused on political persecution, peace, and all that, we have to be very careful about where we apply. We have a lot of ethical principles, so we're not just applying to any kind of institution or company. So after that, I told security is the thing with the money. I've mentioned both of them. Our current challenge is, it was much easier for us in Turkey to reach out to the network of scholars that were persecuted and tell them, please apply. But now that we're opening to other countries, it's very difficult to reach out to persecuted scholars because we don't know who's persecuted, and we don't want this to open up so that we can, bring in government agents or people who ally with the government. They can use us, so we are aware of those dangers. We don't have the linguistic skills, like you might want to open a call, and I don't want to name countries, but in any country around the world, from Latin America to Africa to Asia. And Europe, unfortunately, you don't want to, we need networks there. So please keep that in mind. We are very open to people joining Off University from non-Turkish environment academies, being our ally and working with us, joining us. We would welcome them. We just have to go through the security process to make sure that we're safe. I think those are our biggest challenges at the moment. And we're constantly, as I said, writing research projects and funding all kinds of things, and reaching out to students. The online challenge, okay, this is probably our constant challenge. Online pedagogy is very difficult. Our lecturers, as well as our students, are not used to it. So we need to create an environment where we can actually create a community, because they'll never see each other face to face in a classroom. But if you don't have a community, learning doesn't really happen as well as it does in a classroom. So we're constantly thinking of ways to improve this community building through online tools, developing online pedagogies, because it's not as developed as you might think. A lot of institutions all over the world are doing it, but they're doing it like we're not really ready for it. The pandemic has actually made that quite obvious, I think, to a lot of people, that we're not there yet. It's not about the technology is there. We just don't know how to create that learning environment in online spaces. We're trying, we're developing, and that's our probably biggest long-term challenge.
So we decided that with Ella, we will address shortly address one big problem. And the problem I want to mention would be the relation with politics. And by politics, I wouldn't mean Putin and the government, but let's say the rhizomatic network the politics is creating, which begins with security forces when you are entering some buildings, to right-wing channels on Telegram, which are criticizing everything which they consider left or feminist, sometimes denouncing it, then to the cultural authorities, and then cultural authorities translating it to the organizations, things that unfortunately happen often. And then we have to deal somehow, showing that we are not that radical as people think we are. Or you have cases when, if we have courses like investigative journalism and public activism, there is a certain risk involved. And it did happen that we had some interventions of the police. And I would say the positive thing and the positive experience is that we actually managed to survive afterwards without, heavy damage. But this exactly works because, exactly as Asuda said, the fact checking of people we work with, and also interestingly, students who apply to us. Of course, we cannot do this fact checking on the side of students. But those students who came to us are very like-minded, and they're very engaged, and they are helping us also. And not only they are helping us, but they are also then developing their own ideas further for the courses, conferences, and events. So I would say we answer to this challenge by not creating a community, but being in a community which is used to help each other. And then I give it to Ella to address the second problem.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we were reported to the police this summer and had some problems afterwards, but of course it can't be compared with the situation when people, can't have their passports and arrested. So, but for me, the challenge is not only the state and police repressions, but it's also connected with the internal organization, because our institution is horizontal. At least we try to do it horizontal. We don't have funding, like much funding, and we actually can't be motivated by money, both students and the team. There is no boss who makes us work and study. There are no certificates, and there are no all types of grade in our institution. So the idea is that people have to develop their internal motivation to do things, right? And they have to have a very strong internal motivation for this, both the students and the team. And I think it's a problem because, when you work for a long time for a boss under strict, in a strict organization like Russian universities, you don't have this internal motivation. You just want to have a rest after your work, and sleep you want to sleep all the time, and that's all. But I think that at the same time, this need for the internal motivation in such organizations as our is also an advantage, because our organization is the place where you can actually develop this internal motivation and try to understand what you really want. So this is the challenge for us. And but the good thing about this is also that I think we could create a very, very motivated and an absolutely beautiful community of people who knows, who found out what they want, what they want to know, what they want to discuss, and yeah, who are highly, highly motivated people. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, Ella and Jan. So after this brief introduction, I just, and before we open it for a very, very informal free-for-all, I just wanted to give you a chance to ask each other one question, if you would like to use that opportunity. And after that, we will just chat.
So maybe I will ask them the
Yeah,
question. I know I had 24 hours to prepare the question and I didn't. But I would say I would actually ask what is the feedback you are getting from the students of university, and how do you work with this feedback? I mean, is it like archived somewhere also to show you know how it works and how beautiful it works, or is like I mean, I suppose that some of your students also then try maybe to make political pressure. I really don't know how Turkey internally works, but in Russia, some of our students are from good families, who I mean, from families who have a voice. And I was wondering whether some of your students were trying to, I mean, make some, for example, petitions about individual scholars, or taking the argument that that the Off University works so beautifully, and that we need these scholars again in Turkey. So were there initiatives like this or not?
To your last question, no. And that was not our intention at all, actually. So these courses are not political. They're very much, in the traditional academic format. So if the course is about, I don't know, the financial policy in Latin America, it's about financial policy in Latin America. But of course, as I said, we are prioritizing critical studies. And we don't know who our students are. And this is very intentional. This is one of the most prominent things about our working model. We don't want to know who they are. We don't collect emails. We don't collect any kind of personal information about them. If they choose to, of course, they can open their cameras and show themselves to their friends in class. So whatever we collect right after the course, and we're like, are you happy with the course? What's your feedback? And the students this is the thing, a lot of people sign up for online classes, right? Like hundreds of people sign up for the class and they're interested, they want to show solidarity. In the end though, we have is like 15 students who actually come to class. But once they do come to the first class, they're there for the rest of the semester. So our actual retention rate is very high, which tells us that they're happy to be there, because most of them actually end up not getting a certificate. After attending and doing work, they don't ask for a certificate. They were there because they wanted to learn, which I find wonderful. And, they're not there for for the document. What's happening is, I think we are advertising ourselves. We're talking about this in different forums, and people on social media are aware of what's happening. And I presume that some of them are our students, and they are actually reminding to the public, a lot of people are doing that constantly, that the professors that were dismissed, that were sent to exile, that the universities lost, were actually valuable to the academia, to the public discussion, to Turkey, for the country. I think it makes this idea, it's part of the thing that keeps this idea alive, that we've lost something through this political persecution. It's not just that the academics lost their jobs, but universities, students, campuses lost a lot. That's our hope. Are we accomplishing that? I mean, I hope we are partially, definitely. To what extent, you never know. So I guess, I don't know if it's satisfying, but this is all we know really. Should I be asking a question now?
Yes, please.
Or
If
should
you
we
have
open
any.
it to?
Yeah, whatever you want, I think. I mean, like, if you
If you-
don't feel like, yeah, we can open it to everyone, or you're of course welcome to ask questions. Sudha.
I'm going to ask you something because this has been our main concern to Anti-Universe, and you mentioned this, I know, but this is why we make everything anonymous. Aren't your students scared to attend, like to show their faces, maybe to have their names known when they come to a place? Because this is one of the things with surveillance states, right? I mean, in Turkey, they don't come and do anything. When you meet, you meet. It's not a problem. But you know that somebody's keeping track of these things. So when they want to, they can track back and say, you were there at this meeting. And that's why we're always trying to protect. So what are you doing something? Are you scared? Are the students scared?
I would say that, I mean, your situation is really worse, and I see it now, and I saw it from the very beginning of our talk. So I would say, for example, in my classes and in the classes, I know students are not scared, and they just like to attend, and then they attend these events as any other events in Moscow, you know, any other cultural events. But maybe Jan has a different opinion. I mean, we had some events when I was scared on you know, political topics, and some of our students who make whom they've made a performance about surveillance in Moscow, and they were arrested, and they had to, you know, to pay fines, but they were not scared, you know, they just did it. Maybe Jan thinks differently. What are your observations, Jan?
I mean, I would totally agree. The situation in Turkey is different and worse. In our case, I think it also depends really on the course. So like exactly the course about activism, people were told from the very beginning on what can happen. Nothing was obligatory. And exactly the group which was detained and had to pay fines also, you know, worked with this experience further and worked with this performance further, making several additional events. So, I mean, it looks like in reality, the organizers of the anti-university are much more scared than students, as Ella rightly says. And I had, you know, I had events I organized to which I was taking my toothbrush with me, but nothing happened. But it might be that you are right that, you know, names are noted and they might be brought up, but maybe not. I would say that, you know, those students who are applying are hopefully knowing that there might be some risk involved, but in 99% there is no risk involved in the courses we are proposing or in the topics we're proposing.
Of course, there are some risks. Like, for example, we have these laws about foreign agents, and they are designed in a way that it could be used for anyone. For example, you could be a physical person, could be called a foreign agent for getting money from the abroad, or just posting the information from the organizations who get money from abroad. And so this all, of course, I mean, and Jan, for example, he's not from Russia, he's from European Union, right? So of course, all these concerns we have, but it was quite quiet for now, not that bad as I, for example, expected when we started all this. So yeah, so students actually I mean, students in Russia are really brave, I would say. Sometimes they behave much braver than, you know, their professors.
Yeah, I'll just add that actually we're much more scared for our students than they are. Same thing. They just come, they don't seem to care much, but we're always like, what if we put them in danger? We always have that in our minds. But the Solidarity Academies in Turkey, people don't seem to mind as much. We're much more aware of the dangers because we're online, and we're like, when you're online, you can be tracked online too. So I guess we're a little paranoid about everything, but it's better to be safe than sorry, we think, as Off University. Yeah.
Thank you all for this wonderful conversation. And although we say that the Turkey is quite different than Russia, I think there's some similarities as well. Like the foreign agent law sounds quite familiar to us, I think. And again, thanks. And now I think we can open the floor for the questions. So if there are any questions, you can either type on the chat. Allison has a question. Do you want to voice it, Allison, or I can just read? Is it that they don't mind or they make informed choices? I think she refers to the students.
As anti-university, I would say we truly hope that they make informed choices, but we cannot say for sure. And like from the experience, I would say they make informed choices.
I think it's the same with us. People are very aware of what's going on. And you know how it is in Turkey, 1,000 people do 1,000 things and one of them get in trouble. You never know if you're going to be that one person, but there's always that chance and everybody's kind of aware of that.
And maybe I would say one more thing is that in Russia, that there is paragraph for everyone. So because you can be detained for everything, you actually, that's let's say my experience as an observer, that I'm like much more aware of the dangers than colleagues who are living it for already some time, because they know that if you can be detained for everything, police can put drugs into your pocket and detain you for it. Then you are not that afraid to go for an event which might be some politically provocant, because the probability that you will get detained there is more or less the same as walking at the street in the evening. So that's, I would say.
That's maybe because people in Russia have learned well enough that there are some red tapes. If you don't cross the red tape, you are comparably free in doing whatever you want. There are not many red tapes, but there are some. If we don't cross them, and so that's more or less fine. As I could see in the program of Anti-University in the last year, there wasn't a single course which would like discuss really sensitive or really dangerous topics. So Jan, what was said was everything was said like more or less openly in the Anti-University was inside of these possible like sphere of still permitted free speech. It's just a comment. If someone would come there and just ask, for example, if we can discuss courses about Ukrainian war, whatever, I think maybe Anti-University could get in trouble with deciding whether it's permissible or not.
And to surprise you and to answer to this question, we had police which came to the urban planning course, and they were asking to Nata, who is leading it, whether the course is about criticizing Sobyanin. So I mean, I would agree that there are red tapes. We were trying not to cross them. We did cross them at least 2 times, or I mean, maybe not cross them, but at least touch them. And there were moments when we were really in panic, and happily.
Yeah, I mean, we were on the edge, but we were not crossing. Mikhail Nemtsev, I just wanted to say that is actually one of the professors of Anti-University. He had a course on internal colonization and post-colonial studies, just for those who are outside of our institution. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I wanted to ask a question to you guys. I heard it was possible, so would you please give me an ear? Well, there is I listened to several sessions during this wonderful post-university, and there is one thing which seems crucially important for me, but it wasn't open discussed as much as I wish it could be. The problem is that all the initiatives like anti-university, maybe post-university, whatever, free university, they are somehow based on a well-developed university system, on an academic system. So there is not, like, if we look at the announcement of this post-university conference, almost everyone has signification of university as an affiliation. So someone must be affiliated with a university to take part in anti-university or in a post-university, or at least to me somehow to hide in most cases it is so. And the question is, well, is there any possible politics of this anti-university to the official university? Anti-university cannot exist without a university, even if the official is old style university is somehow not against maybe, but is not a place to do activities which we all want to do. So if there is a university, some other initiatives might emerge. If there is no university, it can't happen technically. There are not enough people and enough those who would like to go there and listen to them. The question is, what do you think, guys? What is the politics of so-called post-university or free university, whatever, to the university? Is there any space for respect, for I don't know? What are the relations? Like, we discuss how people move from university to some other alternatives, but what about this backward relation from? Am I clear? I'm sorry for this. I didn't try to voice this before. But...
If I can answer it, or start answering it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a crucial question, I think. So I would very firmly say that we'll cohabitate with the university. If there would be no university, we would probably create an anti-art, something like this. We would have to, have ideas how to make it without a university also. But yes, I mean, we rely on both students and scholars from the university, and on their disappointment with the university, because their disappointment we are translated into creativity. I mean, that's not a good situation in any way. And I think that in the previous discussion in Russian, it was clearly voiced that in a different socio-political system, anti-university might have been a part of the university, like, a lab or something like this.
In an ideal world, yes.
In an ideal world, I mean, in an ideal world, which is not there, it's not in the US, it's not in Germany, because many problems we are facing in Russia are similar problems other universities are facing in different countries. So there is always, a certain limitation of creativity which is happening in the university. And my answer to it is we shouldn't fight it. We should simply accept it that the universities have their limits, and they will always have them. But there are people who want to do more outside, and anti-university is a place exactly for this kind of people. However, these people don't have to be from the university. So in anti-university, we were trying to reach to as many colleagues from non-university spheres. It worked, I would say, half good. But we want to make it much stronger. And one of our guiding ideas was that we want to also initiate a dialogue between academic people representing academic knowledge and people representing other types of knowledge which are not there in the academia. For example, artists who are very often excluded. So that we want to break this kind of top-down system in which you have a academic experts saying how the society is, and try to initiate a dialogue between the society, whatever it is, and the person who is claiming to have expertise, because this is how actually this person can also learn something new, and that's not really happening at the university. As I said, we are trying it. That was our main idea. We are trying it with obvious limitations that we have as people coming from the universities, which is like also cognitive limitations. And whether it's a success or not, that's a different question.
Which I was going to ask. Did you succeed in the end, actually, to reach out to these people? Because that's what we were trying to do as well, and it's hard. So if you have managed to do that, and I'm sorry, I think I might have interrupted Ella, but I please go ahead, Ella. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Sorry, that's me. I interrupted you. Just I wanted to add here that for me, for example, I mean, we have different opinions in the team and different ideas what anti-university is, and I think it's perfect. It's very good. Actually, it's not a problem. And for example, for me, yeah, anti-university is a place, it's a space for where I can think. It's not opposing to university. It's a space where I can think how a perfect model of university would work and experiment with this. Yeah, in a normal, perfect world, these things would all happen in the academia, but they can't. And not because only the state, right? Only Russian state, but also because of new neoliberal models of university and different, different ideas connected with it, with many other different reasons. So that's like experimental space where you are not limited by the bureaucracy, by the rankings, publications, and statuses and things like this, I would say. And I don't know could we achieve? I mean, maybe Jan would say, I need to think about it.
My answer would be we both did and didn't. We have some, I would call it as an academic that we have some success. As a person who wanted much more, I would say we didn't have that much success as we wanted. The thing is that, I mean, so far it worked through personal connections. So people we know from Moscow, and this is a special connection in Moscow, which is called a kind of Tusovka, which is a group which you have, colleagues of colleagues of colleagues. And this is how we reached people. We in the calls we did so far, and our basic idea was that actually students will be much more involved as people who, for example, do seminars, reading groups, and so on and so on. In the calls for initiatives which we started, most people answered are rather disgruntled scholars, I would say, displeased with the universities. And we are thinking how to try to break this circle of expertise, because this repeats the circle of expertise, just in a different institution. We are talking about it, but if someone has an idea how to do it, we would be really very thankful for help and tips.
So we are running out of time, I think, and maybe if Georgia wanted to ask a question, you could make it very, very short, and then we will slowly move towards something like the closing remarks, and hopefully eventually something less formal as well.
Okay, thank you, Anatoly. And I actually had two questions, one each, but I can cut one and focus on the second one because it's a bit broader. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you and hear about your experiences. And I think, so the second question that I had was focused on what kind of lessons learned you could explain a little bit, or what are your suggestions of how the more institutional, more traditional ways of doing university can apply from you. And I think Aysuda mentioned something that could answer this, about this triggering self-motivation on learning instead of trying to have these compensation or competitive methods. So, and Ella just mentioned that anti-university is a way for her to reflect a little bit on how can an ideal model of university could be. So maybe you could just elaborate a little bit on that. Thank you.
This is such a difficult question. I think, and we have such a tortured relationship with the academic system in the first place. I mean, everyone at Off University is affiliated with a university, but our lecturers have to be not affiliated with a university. They have to be, kicked out of a university. And yes, we learn things, but at the same time, we're constantly, now it makes us think a lot. It makes us discuss a lot, which actually ties into the previous discussion. We're trying to figure out, like, where do we stand? And because we're so aware of all the things that are wrong in the university system. And it's terrible. I mean, all around the world, the university system is so hierarchical, so neoliberalized, so conducive to, the university should be a place of dissent. It's the opposite. It's the place where governments take hold, control. In Germany, there's no dissent in German universities. We were shocked to figure out. Turkish universities in that sense are much more democratic because, Off University is constantly trying to cross that red line. That's why we get in trouble. But sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But I don't know how to answer your question. It's just that I want you to know that there's a lot of soul searching, and we're always debating that. And we get together to specifically debate that and form groups to work on these issues. It's just that I'll tell you something very honest and terrible, because we have full-time jobs, and all of our work at Off University, and I'm guessing at NTI University, is volunteer time. From your free time. And on top of that, you're trying to think of these big questions. We're always tired. And when we get together, we have these big ideas and we want to discuss, and then we say, let's, have this project, let's work on this, or let's set this working group. And we do. And trust me, if we had time, I think we would come up with much more elaborate and better ideas. And ideas are there. It's just we would find ways to make them work. And because part of it is that we want to change the university system. We don't want to abolish universities. We love universities. We just don't like the way they function, how they function. So we want to reform it a little bit. We want to help it create ideas. But the problem with universities is that, and with all of our volunteer work, is that we're always overworked and tired and overextended. And that's why we fail to do we can't even do this much of what we want to accomplish, which is better than nothing. I don't want you to think, okay, it's something. But to be honest, it's not at all what we want to do, because we have ideas and we want to discuss, and we really think there's a lot to be done from within the university and outside the university. And we want to, this is the last thing I'm going to say, we firmly believe at Off University, all of my colleagues believe that university is part of academia, but academia should not be limited to the campus, should not be limited to the university. It should exist outside the university, it should have spaces outside. And this is what we can do so far. Our relationship with the university system is very tortured, as I said, and we don't know what to do about that, except trying to make hierarchies visible, maybe a little bit, talk about them so far. Yeah, it's not a great answer, but because we don't have answers so far.
Maybe I will tell very short, and I see that Ella also wants to say something. I will tell only in 1 minute. I think that the thing I learned most, and I think profited most, and I have the feeling that in the discussions in Anti-University we did, is that we realized that the problems of academia, of universities, cannot be solved if we talk only to people within the universities, which is, I mean, you mentioned Germany, that's exactly what happened. They have a lot of conferences about crisis of universities, but what I found interesting in Moscow is that the ideas how to face this crisis, like let's say the most intellectually challenging ideas about it, which I had, they came from not from the university, they came from public sphere, from artistic artistic sphere. And I think that's what we've learned, at least I learned most, that the most interesting, if you want to learn something about university, talk to people who is not there.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add, but it would be a little bit more specific, what I've learned from the Anti University. Interdisciplinarity, right? I mean, I don't know how it is outside of Russia, but in Russia now it's super fashionable. Universities, they desire interdisciplinarity. They try to make, interdisciplinary groups and try to make them publish and, work together, but people still don't do this, so universities fail. And from the Anti-University, I actually understood that interdisciplinarity, it could appear, but you can't just make a group, tell people to work with each other, and they will start publishing, You have to have a year of discussions and different meetings without any, articles, books, and things like this. And only in this way, the disciplinarity could appear, because people will discuss things, they will, interact with each other, and finally they will find connection. They will find some, points of intersection where their different ideas and methods could work together. So that's what I understood from the Anti-University. So all this, when neoliberal universities want interdisciplinarity and at the same time want rankings and publications, like 4 publications a year, it's just they want impossible things to be together. And from our initiative, I understood that it should be done in a different way. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia, for your question, and Jan and Nala and Isuda for the answer, and for this great conversation. I think we're a bit out of time, so I will invite Jacqueline Dufala to say a few words and maybe wrap it up. Anatoly, do you have anything final words to say? Otherwise, I invite Jackie.
I'm going to keep this very brief, although it's going to be hard because after these past kind of 2.5 days, it's been really intense, and there's been a lot of things, I think, on everybody's mind. And I think 2 things, though, that stick out to me right now, although I think as the weeks go on, more and more will come to surface, is one thing and I'm glad Sergei Akopov is here with us, because it was something you said today in your lecture, or I guess discussion, which was about this kind of difference between loneliness and solitude. And I hope that I have understood you correctly, but it resonated with me because I think going into this post-university project, I came from a place of this loneliness, of this idea of, I'm frustrated about something, or I'm angry about something, or there's this pandemic and now everybody's home or moving and things are much more complicated. And I think now, after this event, I can say I'm much more in a place of solitude, in the sense that I may not necessarily be in a physical community with somebody else, but I know there are other people out there who are having similar ideas. And this ties into, I think, another thing that came up in our discussion, or in the dinner yesterday with Cenk Murad, where Murad Sevinch said that we have to stop thinking about individuals, because there are a lot of very good individuals. There's also good people trying to do good things, which is also obvious after this dinner tonight. And quite honestly, for the past 2 days. But he said, and we have to think about solidarity, and we have to think about solidarity in terms of changing structure. And so I kind of, after these 2 days, have this idea of this solidarity and solitude. So we may be in a lot of different places, and we may have some crazy things going on, or trying to do our own initiatives, or being tired a lot, which I really resonated with when you said that, Isuda. But on the plus side, I do feel as though this was a chance to be more connected. And I'm really hoping that we can find some constructive way to keep this going. And I'm very happy to have met so many of you and to feel the solidarity and the solitude. So thank you all for joining us. And a big thank you to my co-organizers, Erdosak and Anatoly Reshetnikov, Lilia Sablina, to our interpreters, and to the CU, Department of International Relations. So thank you, everyone. And please stay in touch. We're going to try to make this a thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Was very happy to meet Off University. It's a great initiative.
Thank you, and we're happy to meet you. Every time I hear someone else is doing pretty similar things to us, so you're experiencing similar things to Turkey, and you're resisting in similar ways. Yeah, I feel that solidarity, and it gives me hope. So that's how you can overcome tiredness, I guess. It was great to see you. Let's keep in touch as organizations.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.